September 18, 2001. Qiandao Lake, Zhejiang Province, China. The surface of the water is perfectly still. A thin layer of morning fog drifts across the lake like smoke from an extinguished fire. Beneath the boat, the water is dark green and impossibly deep. Divers tighten their masks in silence. Technicians check oxygen valves one final time. Then, they descend. The sunlight fades almost immediately. At 10 meters, the world becomes muted. At 20, the cold begins to bite through the suit. At 30 meters beneath the lake's surface, flashlight beams suddenly strike something impossible. Stone. Not scattered ruins. Not collapsed debris. Walls. Massive carved walls rising from the darkness. The divers freeze for a moment, hovering weightlessly in the silent water. Before them stands an enormous stone archway covered in ancient Chinese inscriptions. One diver slowly brushes his gloved hand across the carving. Silt drifts upward like smoke. A dragon emerges from the stone. Then another. As the lights sweep outward, entire streets begin to appear beneath the water. Doorways, temples, staircases, an entire lost city. For years, rumors had circulated among locals living near Qiandao Lake. Stories whispered by older generations who remembered villages swallowed by rising waters during the 1950s. Fishermen claimed strange shapes existed below the lakebed. Most scholars dismissed the stories as exaggerations. But now, suspended in the darkness beneath Qiandao Lake, the divers were staring directly at the evidence. The lost city of Shichang had survived, and astonishingly, it looked untouched. Qiandao Lake, known in Chinese as Thousand Island Lake, lies in Zhejiang Province in eastern China. Today it appears peaceful, a vast artificial lake surrounded by forested mountains and scattered islands. Tourists visit for its scenery. Few realize an ancient city sleeps beneath the surface. Shichang, also called Lion City, was originally founded during the Eastern Han Dynasty, around the 2nd century CE. For nearly 1,300 years, it existed as a thriving political and cultural center. Beneath the shadow of Wushi Mountain, whose 5 peaks resembled the mane of a lion, the city prospered through dynasties that rose and fell across Chinese history. Merchants traveled its roads carrying silk, tea, ceramics, and medicinal herbs. Stone masons carved elaborate archways honoring emperors and scholars. Temples filled with incense overlooked narrow streets lined with wooden homes. During the Tang Dynasty, poets wrote about the beauty of the surrounding mountains. During the Ming and Qing dynasties, the city expanded further, becoming an important administrative center. Then, in the 20th century, everything changed. In 1959, officials approved construction of the Xianan River Hydroelectric Station. The project promised electricity for growing cities and factories. But there was a cost. Entire valleys would be flooded. More than 300,000 residents were relocated from the region.
Village disappeared.
Farmland vanished beneath the rising reservoir. The gates closed, the water rose, and Lion City disappeared. For decades afterward, the submerged city was largely forgotten outside local memory. When exploratory dives began in the late 1990s and early 2000s, divers expected scattered remains at best. Massive wooden beams still intact. Stone staircases undisturbed. Decorative carvings preserved with astonishing detail. International media quickly began comparing Shichang to Atlantis, the legendary lost city. Somewhere beneath the dark waters of Qiandao Lake, Lion City still stands in silence, waiting. The divers descend again into the lake. This time, they come prepared with stronger lights, underwater cameras, and detailed sonar maps. Their breathing echoes inside their helmets as bubbles spiral upward into darkness above. 30 meters below the surface of Qiandao Lake, the temperature drops sharply. The city slowly emerges once more from the green-black water. First, the rooftops appear, curved Chinese tiles glistening underwater. Then the walls, ancient stone fortifications rising from the murky depths. Then entire avenues stretching into silence beyond the reach of light. Flashlights glide across carved stone gates untouched by sunlight for over 40 years. Wooden beams remain fitted together with ancient precision. In some places, even delicate decorative patterns survive intact. One diver later described the experience as swimming through history itself. The deeper researchers explored, the more astonishing the hidden truth became. This was not a small ruined settlement lost beneath the lake. It was a fully developed ancient city, sophisticated, organized, and culturally rich. Shechang occupied a strategically important location in eastern China for centuries. Positioned near the Xianan River, it connected inland trade with prosperous coastal regions. Dynasties changed, emperors rose and fell, but Lion City endured through it all. Records suggest the city flourished particularly during the Tang and Song dynasties, golden ages of Chinese art, trade, and technological advancement. You can almost imagine the sounds that once filled these streets. The creaking wheels of merchant carts rolling on stone streets. Temple bells echoing through morning fog over jade-green mountains. Scholars reciting poetry beneath flickering lantern light. Street vendors selling tea and rice cakes while silk-robed officials crossed stone bridges. Unlike many ancient cities that evolved chaotically, Shechang displayed deliberate urban planning. Roads aligned carefully through the valley with important structures on elevated ground. Defensive walls protected the central districts from outside threats. Even underwater, the city's layout still reflects perfect order. Researchers discovered more than 260 decorative archways throughout the city. Many featured elaborate carvings of mythological creatures from Chinese folklore. Dragons twisted across stone pillars in serpentine majesty. Phoenixes spread their wings beside delicate lotus flowers. Stone lions guarded temple entrances with eternal vigilance. In traditional Chinese symbolism, such creatures represented cosmic balance and imperial authority. Every carving communicated meaning. Every gate told a story. What stunned historians most was the extraordinary level of preservation. Normally, ancient wooden architecture disappears quickly. Fire, insects, humidity, earthquakes, and warfare destroy most structures. But underwater, Shechang had been sealed away from nearly all those threats. The lake acted almost like a giant time capsule beneath the surface. Wooden staircases still connected upper levels with ancient grace. Stone inscriptions remained readable. Some walls still displayed chisel marks left by craftsmen centuries earlier. But the hidden truth of Shechang was not only archaeological. It was political. The city had not been lost accidentally. It had been sacrificed. During the 1950s, China underwent massive industrial transformation under Chairman Mao Zedong. The Xianan River Dam became one of the country's major engineering efforts during that era. Entire valleys would be flooded intentionally to create the reservoir. More than 1,300 villages and ancient sites vanished during the creation of Qiandao Lake. Some carried ancestral tablets onto relocation trucks while watching floodwaters consume their homes. Decades later, documentary crews and archaeologists finally descended into the ruins. Sonar scans and underwater photography missions revealed three-dimensional maps of the city's layout. Columns emerged from darkness like ghosts. Ancient Chinese characters glowed beneath flashlight beams. Unlike Atlantis, described only by Plato, Shechang offered something tangible to touch and measure. Lion City still rests where it has slept since 1959. Vast sections still unexplored, dark, silent, waiting. Night settles over Qiandao Lake. From the shoreline, the water appears calm, almost unnaturally calm. Moonlight drifts across the surface in silver streaks while distant mountains stand motionless against the sky. But beneath that stillness, Lion City waits in darkness. Its temples remain intact. Its streets remain silent. Its gates remain closed. And as images of the submerged ruins spread across the world, fascination quickly turned into speculation. Could an entire ancient city truly survive underwater for decades without major collapse? Why had so few people heard of Shirchang before the modern dives? And why did the underwater footage feel so hauntingly similar to legends humanity has repeated for thousands of years? Stories of drowned cities. Forgotten civilizations swallowed by water. Worlds erased beneath lakes and oceans. For historians, the comparisons were inevitable. The ancient Greeks spoke of Atlantis, a powerful island civilization described by Plato around 360 BCE. According to his writings, Atlantis vanished beneath the sea in a single day and night of misfortune. In Wales, legends told of Cantor Gwaelod, a fertile kingdom drowned beneath the ocean after protective walls failed. In India, underwater ruins near Dwarka inspired stories connected to ancient Sanskrit texts. Across cultures separated by oceans and centuries, humanity repeatedly imagined cities disappearing beneath water. Most scholars believe such myths reflect collective fears tied to floods, rising seas, and natural disasters. Ancient communities living near rivers and coastlines constantly faced catastrophic flooding. Water could sustain civilizations, but it could also erase them. Shirchang gave those legends a disturbing sense of realism, because unlike mythological lost cities, Lion City proved something undeniable. Entire urban worlds can vanish almost overnight, and within one generation, they can become nearly forgotten. Some researchers argued the Chinese Atlantis label exaggerated the reality of the site. After all, Shirchang was never truly lost to history. Government records documented the flooding project. Former residents remembered the city clearly. Maps still existed. The city's disappearance had occurred recently in historical terms. Calling it Atlantis, critics argued, transformed real history into sensational mythology. Yet others believed the emotional comparison revealed something deeper about human psychology. When divers explored Shirchang, they were not simply studying architecture. They were confronting absence. A city built by countless generations now existed in total silence beneath dark water. Homes once filled with conversation stood empty. Temples that once echoed with prayer had become habitats for drifting fish and algae. The emotional impact felt ancient, almost primal. To descend into Shirchang was to witness civilization interrupted. But alongside fascination came doubt. Some historians questioned whether the underwater preservation was truly as extraordinary as media reports claimed. Photographs often focused on the best-preserved areas while avoiding collapsed structures or damaged districts. Certain wooden components had deteriorated significantly. Sediment accumulation obscured entire sections of the city. Others warned that tourism and commercial diving could eventually threaten the fragile ruins. As public interest exploded, local authorities began promoting Qendao Lake as a destination for adventure tourism. Divers traveled from around the world hoping to swim through the underwater streets. But increased human activity created new risks. Underwater currents stirred sediment against ancient carvings. The same attention preserving its legacy could ultimately contribute to its destruction. And beneath the surface of modern life, entire histories may still wait in silence. Preserved in darkness, hidden just beyond human sight, dawn rises slowly over Qendao Lake. Mist curls between the islands as fishing boats drift silently across the water. To tourists standing along the shoreline, the lake feels peaceful, almost timeless. But beneath that calm surface lies a forgotten city older than many nations. A city still standing in darkness. A city that refuses to disappear completely. In recent years, advances in underwater archaeology have allowed researchers to explore Shirchang with technologies unimaginable when the city was flooded in 1959. High-resolution sonar now maps submerged streets with astonishing precision. Remote-operated vehicles glide through collapsed corridors carrying cameras into spaces too dangerous for divers. Three-dimensional digital reconstructions allow historians to virtually walk through ancient neighborhoods preserved beneath the lake. Each new survey reveals more detail. Stone lions guarding ceremonial gates. Calligraphy etched into arches centuries ago. Temple courtyards arranged according to traditional feng shui principles. massive wooden beams still locked together without nails using ancient Chinese joinery techniques. The city continues to speak, but only in fragments. Because despite decades of exploration, much of Shechang remains untouched. And that is where the unanswered mystery begins. No one knows exactly how many artifacts still rest inside the submerged buildings. Researchers believe countless objects may remain sealed within homes, temples, government halls, and family shrines beneath layers of sediment. Porcelain, scrolls, religious statues, personal belongings abandoned during evacuation. Perhaps even documents recording local histories lost everywhere else. Yet recovering such materials presents enormous danger. The very conditions preserving Shechang could be destroyed by aggressive excavation. Once artifacts leave the stable underwater environment, exposure to oxygen, bacteria, light, and temperature changes may rapidly damage them. In some cases, archaeologists have intentionally chosen not to recover objects at all, to leave them sleeping beneath the lake, protected by darkness. This creates a strange paradox. Humanity has rediscovered Lion City but cannot fully reveal it. The city remains trapped between preservation and exploration. To uncover it completely may mean destroying the very miracle that kept it alive. Some divers describe an eerie emotional weight while swimming through the ruins. Unlike ancient sites abandoned gradually over centuries, Shechang was evacuated within living memory. Families walked these streets knowing the waters would soon rise above them forever. Doors were closed for the last time. Ancestral temples were abandoned. Entire neighborhoods vanished beneath the reservoir in only months. In many ways, the city feels less like a ruin and more like a paused moment in history, a frozen memory. And perhaps that emotional immediacy explains why comparisons to Atlantis continue to endure. Not because Shechang is mythical, but because it awakens an ancient fear buried deep within human civilization. The fear that everything we build can vanish. Across history, water has repeatedly reshaped human destiny. The Nile nourished ancient Egypt. The Tigris and Euphrates sustained Mesopotamia. The Yellow River helped give birth to Chinese civilization. Yet floods also destroyed cities, erased kingdoms, and displaced entire populations. Modern civilization often imagines itself immune to such forces. Dams control rivers. Concrete walls hold back seas. Technology creates the illusion of permanence. But Shechang quietly challenges that belief. Because Lion City did not disappear in some distant mythical age. It vanished in modern times. Photographs exist of its streets before flooding. Survivors still remember the evacuation. Some elderly residents can still point toward the lake and say, "My home is down there." That reality gives the submerged city a haunting power no legend can fully replicate.